Welcome to the 21st Century Film Club. My name is Seamus, and the first film we'll be reviewing today is Falling for Christmas. So, what did you think of the film?
That's a good question. I mean, it's a cheesy Christmas film. Like, how good can it be? I guess. It has charm to it. I feel like some people will enjoy that. It didn't overstay its welcome. It's very short. It's like a 90 minutes film in total. There was romance involved. There was comedy involved. It was just nice and cheesy, and there wasn't really much to it. This is exactly what you sort of imagine when you think 21st century Christmas film, I guess. There wasn't really much to it, I guess.
I hated it. And I love a cheesy Christmas film. Like, I'm all about like Love Actually, The Holiday, and all of those sorts of things. And this one just didn't do it for me. Like, I love getting in the mood, and like with the hot chocolate, and like pretending it's Christmas, and like I'm 8 again. But this film was just like, I know it was meant to be like, well, I think it was meant to be like a parody on the original films, maybe, or whether it was actually serious. I don't know. It was that, for me, it was that awkward to watch. It felt like they were like, sort of satirically like parodying like some of the original Christmas films, like with the overacting, like, oh, I'm so dumb, and whatever. But it was painful. I didn't find it funny in that way, or like wholesome and Christmassy, for reasons I'm sure we'll discuss. But yeah, it wasn't for me, and I love Christmas films, so there's lots of things about it that I didn't like.
I was quite a fan of it. I didn't go in expecting a blockbuster. I didn't go in expecting a complex storyline or an amazing acting performance or anyone. And there wasn't really any amazing acting performances, but I thought it was just quite a nice, light-hearted, very cheesy, romantic. Again, I didn't really find it funny in the way I probably intended you to find it funny, but I really enjoyed it, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed bits of it, but I think overall I was a bit disappointed in it. I just think, I think for me, the beginning took so long. So a brief plot of the film is she's a spoiled heiress, Lindsay Lohan, and then she falls off basically kind of like a snow cliff in skiing, and then she has that amnesia. And I think up until that point, I found the film dreadful, up until her amnesia, because it was like, what was actually going on, what was happening? But I kind of understood, because I didn't know anything about it, but I understood it more. And I think by the end of the film, I was just kind of like, oh, there's no plot to this. When's things actually going to happen?
The second she fell down that mountain and had amnesia, you instantly saw the whole plot.
Yes.
The whole plot. You were like, okay, she's going to fall in love with this guy. Then she's going to get rid of her horrible boyfriend that she's currently with. She's going to like, and I know that's part of the charm of these Christmas films. I know that's what you kind of expect. But at least give us something. When Alan Rickman gave that lady that necklace, whoo! Like, we all want things like this, that a little bit of something to it.
Yes,
or
substance.
If it is going to be a really cheesy, like predictable plotline, then the acting kind of has to be really good to sort of make it like watchable.
Yeah, I think. What did you guys think about the chemistry between Lindsay Lohan and Cordova Street?
Oh god, they certainly were there together. That's probably. They were fine. It was very Netflixy. They were there for the bag, and there's not even much else to it. I guess they were fine together. There wasn't anything terrible, like offensive about it.
I think my main problem with their like interaction and their relationship was that there was nothing to it. Like, as in a lot of these films have, people falling in love, but at least normally you see like clips where you actually see them connecting, like on like a friendship level as well as a romantic level, like some bants or some jokes between the two of them. But the whole thing was so surface level and so like, oh, hi, I'm a really good man who donates to charity, and you don't know who you are anymore. And like, it was just, his character for me was so annoying because it's just like he was so perfect and so good, and it wasn't relatable. And it's like, obviously you want to paint this person as like a really good guy, and like really like the person you want, like maybe a children's film, like you want them to know what's what you want in a future partner. But it's like he had no flaws to him.
No, he didn't.
And then it kind of made me think, what's wrong with this man? And then I suddenly realised like he's like preying on this random girl with amnesia.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, come and stay with me.
It's that Little Mermaid plot. It's like she can't speak because she doesn't know who she is. And I actually preferred it in The Little Mermaid because it had a bit more chemistry in cartoon form.
Yeah.
But in this, it was like she fell in love with a blank slate,
Yeah.
and he was a blank slate
She doesn't
himself.
remember
That was
who
my
she
opinion.
is. How can he fall in love with
Yeah.
someone who doesn't even know like who she is, and he doesn't know who she is. And I just think maybe if they'd have had him having like a fatal flaw, or not even
Yeah.
that, but just like being more human, it would have been like, oh, that's why she loves him, and that's why he's obviously a normal person who's not just being creepy and adopting somebody. Like, do you know what I mean? It's obviously that's a bit of a
She kind of like falls in love with him because he's got like a dead wife. Yeah, so it's kind of weird.
It's like he's the first nice person she's met since she lost her memory. Therefore, I must fall in love with him.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
I don't think I went in with any expectations of there being a deep plot or a deep message or any real deep connections, I guess. So I think I just enjoyed it because it was so easy and light-hearted. Like you just sit there and kind of watch it and you didn't have to really overthink it. Like it was just a nice, fluffy Christmas film. Their relationship, I mean, it was very surface level. I do agree. Yeah, I just think especially there was this guy who contrasted with Tad, the boyfriend, who was so like horrible, and I think the acting on his part as well was, I think, probably the worst performance.
Yeah, I think that was the one.
It's pretty awful. So it's just like that big contrast between the two, but it was very surface level.
I do know what you mean. It's like I didn't stop watching it, even though I disliked it. I actually didn't stop watching it, and I watched it the whole way through. And sometimes if it's like a TV show, I would just like bin it for today and pick it up 2 days later. So, and it's not just because of the film club that I watched it fully. I was a bit, I'll see it to the end. So it wasn't that terrible in that way. So I kind of agree with you that if it was a film that a family or anyone was watching like after school, we'd just finish it.
Yeah.
I just don't think Jake, Cord Overstreet's character, had the hots for Lindsay character truly. And I don't think it was the other way around. I don't think either of them were like big eyes at each other, really. So I found that confusing. I would have kind of preferred it if the film ended up where she was just single.
Yeah.
And she was like a better person. She was a reformed charity
she had to fall in love with
philanthropist.
It's a fluffy Christmas film. Obviously, she has to fall in love with this guy.
Yeah, why does she have to fall in love with a guy? She doesn't
the
have.
first man she's met.
Would you be happy if the film ended her single?
Maybe, but I just don't think you can do that in a Christmas film.
Even if they're not single and happy.
What about the daughter, you know?
Oh my god, don't get me started on the daughter.
She was the one who literally forced that relationship to happen, didn't she?
Please, Daddy, I'll cry if you don't go out with this girl.
Oh, no.
But I also think the character of the daughter was interesting because obviously I understand she's meant to be like pure and innocent and like a child and what like a lot of people associate with Christmas. But I don't know, maybe this is controversial, but I thought it was almost too cheesy, like almost too like, I want everything to be perfect for Christmas. I understand she's a child actor, she did a great job, but just in terms of the script, it was very much like she's the perfect pure child, which is fine, but it just added to the whole sort of fake nature of the film. And I just
I think to go deeper on this, I think it is like she's an example for children in that film that you have to be obsessed with Christmas. You have to, and I think in The Princess Switch it's kind of similar, and they have like whenever there's a daughter character, and it tends to be a daughter of a single father as well. She is perfect. That daughter is perfection. She is not bad. She's modest. She's nice. She's into Christmas. You know, she has all these things on the list, and it kind of just shows to kids that you have to be a bit bland, maybe, if you want adults to like you. To think of it in a.
I think bland's a good word. I think the film was fine, but all the characters for me were bland.
Yeah.
Even the ones who were meant to be like acting like funny, I still just thought, come on. Like the whole trope about like the influencers. Obviously, as you were saying, Tad's character was not well acted.
No.
But even though it was meant to be like a complete satirical like parody of the influences of people, that also annoyed me.
They should have gone further into that.
They were like, oh, I don't eat bacon, I don't eat meat, ha ha ha. And I was like, why is that like, they're playing on these stereotypes that like, to be like normal and like Christmassy, you have to like be a traditional, I eat meat and I do all this stuff. I was like, what?
That was, because that was a bit forgettable, I did forget about that, but it was true. It was like, was that a criticism against vegans or influencers? That was just very unclearly worded, that whole, I think that woke? I don't know.
I think we just wanted to reflect the society of today, I guess, and just how you have these kind of people who kind of just behaviours where
I just think they did it in a very insensitive
Yeah.
way. I'm not like offended,
No, no,
but
no.
it's just strange.
It was odd
It's
because
just
it's like
weird.
I
there's
thought
everyone.
when she ate the bacon, I thought maybe she would hate it.
Yeah.
And she'd remember who she was.
Yeah.
But it was like she liked the bacon, like
It's
because
like, I'm just pretending not to eat
Yeah.
meat because, you know,
yeah,
it's cool.
I would have respected it if she had her core beliefs and she just kind of stuck to them,
Mm.
even if she did change as a person. Yeah. What do you think about the LGBTQ representation in the film?
Oh, at the end when
Yes.
he...
Mm.
I mean, they did it in a very stereotypical manner. I thought the way Tad at the end was suddenly like quite a, not a different character, but he seemed to suddenly be quite a changed persona.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like representation, which was good, but I think everything about the film was very stereotypical. I guess, like you say, with the whole bacon thing as well. It was all very surface level, and there wasn't really any kind of deeper thought. It didn't feel like that at the end when he went off in the car with, was it like her dresser guy? It just felt like they flung it in there just for the sake of it, just for like one more
It just
like,
felt
extra thing.
it just felt very shoehorned in. Like there was no sort of reference, there was no sort of build to it. It was just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is happening now, I guess.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree with you on that, which is strange. I think when Tad like went off with that Ralph guy, not but I kind of called it like obviously his character was also like
Camp.
yeah. But when he was like walking through the wilderness with Ralph, he was like there was almost some chemistry, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is strange.
I know it
I
was.
felt something coming on, but yeah, and obviously his relationship with Sierra, Lindsay Lohan, was obviously very fake. So I kind of sensed it, and in a way, I quite liked the fact they didn't have a big like coming out, like maybe I'm gay,
Yeah.
because like it just showed that it's really like to little kids who's watching it, it's normal to be like, oh, I'm going out with a girl or lady, and then oh, and I'm kind of fancying this man. I kind of liked the fact it was very normalised. That's the only redeeming quality for me, I think, about the film.
I just like his character, the way he was presented was very stereotypical, and I don't know, just like his nature, he was quite a flouncy, like extravagant man. I was like, I don't know if that was.
I know what you mean. I do like that it was a bit brief, you know, and it wasn't like laboured or too heavy-handed. But at the same time, his character was just a bit like flouncy, swash, all those other gay words that you associate. And then the audience was like, oh, he's gay, and then it was like the whole film's like,
oh, he is gay.
Is he not? Is he?
I see what you mean.
But
yeah,
I think it's because of his acting. I think as well the reason why we didn't have that connection to him. If you maybe felt a bit of empathy for Tad, but he was pretty horrible to Lindsay's character as well, and that never really got addressed.
It's like you're made to dislike him, and at the end it's like he goes off with this guy, and it's like, you don't really feel anything.
He could still be unlikable and gay.
Oh no, I still dislike him.
But I do agree with Ella really that they tried to make him likable at the end because they wanted everyone to be likable because it's a happy ending, so like everyone's like. But if they had showed him at the end like not running someone over but being like in his
rampage.
In his car on a road rampage, you know, being a selfish jerk,
If he was in a car,
and he's still gay. That to me would show just because you're gay doesn't mean you're a saint.
No,
Although I wish it was true. Yeah.
Or if that guy had rejected him.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Interesting.
Well, maybe there was like if there could have been a way to sort of show him trying to win back Lindsay Lohan's character, I guess, to try and burn down a lot of the cabinet or something.
There's some awful stuff. I hate the ring thing.
Oh
I hated the
God.
ring being too loose thing. That always cringes me out in films because I worked in a warehouse briefly and they're like, oh yeah, someone had a ring and it's like they got their finger taken off, you know, because they were wearing a ring when they were working. So do you know when Lindsay was on the, like on the top of the skiing resort? And it was like that. I was just like, oh my God. Because, do you know, if her ring did fit properly and she was falling off and he had dragged her, what could have happened is her finger could have dislocated.
Such a niche criticism of the film.
So that to me, I was like, inaccurate. That's an inaccuracy right there, guys. But I think some of that was very, very lazy writing. Like, it's fun if you do it in a comedy musical sort of way where like they can't kiss properly or like, their hands don't touch properly and other things. But like, it's just, that is pure stereotype there. Like, the guy who's right for me knows my ring size and everyone in the film was shocked by that. But to me, if someone got my ring size wrong and it was the right person for me, I wouldn't really care.
What's the idea about he was trying to save the ring from so he didn't want the ring to be damaged. Because I sort of didn't get it. I don't know. Because I read it as like him trying to save the ring because he felt the ring was more important than
I
I
get that.
think it was that deep.
I don't
It
think it was
literally
that-
was like, she's got to fall down the
I
mountain.
feel like
Yeah.
I feel like I was saying like if he was the perfect guy, she would have been saved.
Yeah, I saw that.
But
bit.
then I was like, no, she wouldn't. Her finger might have been like blood everywhere, tendon everywhere.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, Netflix. No.
Yeah, I just think they had one character who was really, really bad for her and like very much overwritten and overdone, and then one character who was like perfect for
Underwritten.
her, and I was like, oh, that's so unrealistic, like in real life. And then I couldn't relate to them, even if it was like a mushy like love story. Fine, like I
What
I
about
don't mind that.
what about the film's critique on influencers? You mentioned it earlier. Did you
Yeah.
guys actually think that was a good idea?
I quite strongly disliked that.
It was just a way to sort of make it modern, I guess. Other than that, there was.
It's like, even though it's a children's film, it's kind of promoting that classic middle-aged view of like people who use social media and influencers are like these fake, shallow people. Sure, there probably are quite a few fake, shallow influencers, but not everyone, and no one to that extent. Like, or maybe one or two people to that extent. But I just feel like it was such an old-fashioned view of, oh, these people only care about how they look. They don't. Again, with the bacon thing, they don't have any like core values. It's all just for camera, and I'm just like, that's in this day and age is so untrue. And I know they needed him to be like a jokey character. They needed him to be like shallow. But just the way in which they did that for me is so tiring. It's so old. It's so like, oh, like my sister does things like on Instagram and stuff, and then my dad's always like, oh, like you should go do something really. And I'm just like, why? She's getting money from it. She's a normal person. She's just promoting things that she supports and her view. Oh, I don't know. I just found it quite annoying.
And it's kind of like the old-fashioned family man is the perfect guy. He's got like his daughter, this big lodge and everything, and then it's like this really shallow, empty guy who just does stuff on his phone is like the awful one. Like they've just made such a big contrast between these two guys. Is like a really wholesome guy and a really uncaring, horrible guy. And I just think this Tad was just maybe too empty to like even seem realistic.
I get what I must be middle-aged because I love that criticism when they were like, yes, I was like, get it, take off influence. However, you make a very good point. They should have probably had a middle way of social media being used in like a nice, because at the end of a film when the media gave her all that attention to the resort, so then they'd have to close it. They could have done that through social media. It didn't have to be through mainstream media like TV. And the power of social media, she could have made his website better. He could have got TikTok and Instagram, and then got everyone visiting Jake's place. But she didn't.
I think maybe a better way of making Tad be the good guy at the end is if he'd have been like, you are like, obviously me and Sierra aren't supposed to be, but you have looked after her. I'll promote the North Star Lodge on my social media page, and if he'd have actually been the one to bring everyone in, not Lindsay.
Lindsay could help her. Sierra could help herself.
That would have been a way better way of making him like the good guy at the end, rather than be like, "Hey, I'm gay, bye." Like, do you know what I mean? It could have been like.
Even like using the daughter to try, because obviously she'll have a different way of using social media compared to everyone else. Like she will know how to use it, or like how to promote, and how to market it. Or I guess not that way, but I guess it would have been good to sort of use her in that way. I guess like in the way that you're describing.
I think it's one of those eternal views that is, people always think it's better to rally the troops by going door to door around the village than on social media to get the party attendance. Because they showed Lindsay doing that, and that's supposed to be her growth. Was when she was like visiting people in person, and it is important to interact with people, especially if you lack in that like soft skill. But at the same time, she could have shown as like a business person her acumen there. Like with promote
because the whole theme was that her father was trying to get her a job. And she was like, oh, I don't want this silly job you're making up for me. But she has experience with social media, and obviously she was with Tad for a long time, so she knows how to be like an influencer. But then at the end, her job was literally just, I'm a housekeeper at the inn, or whatever And it's like, why didn't she use her past skill? She could have shown that, you could have integrated the two, but no, she immediately went back to like traditional values, which I just thought was strange and outdated.
So the film is Your Christmas or Mine on Amazon Prime. So what did you think about it?
I really enjoyed it. I wasn't so sure at the start. It took me a while to get into it. But yeah, I think overall it was a really wholesome, just nice, fluffy Christmas film. It also had lots of British humour, which I quite enjoyed as well. So yeah, overall I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it picks up from the second half. The first half of the film, I really didn't enjoy the way it built its characters. It was just very, it's a little bit simple, really. But yeah, I enjoyed the Christmas jokes towards the end of it, and yeah, it was just a fun Christmas film towards the end.
Yeah, I'm quite similar. Like, I think it did take a bit of getting used to the characters and like obviously the northern southern divide and everything, because there was like some kind of like assumptions and stuff they kind of really ran with, which I was a bit like, oh. But I do think overall like it fit like a good Christmas film. Like I think it wouldn't fit on like a bad Christmas film. It's like it's kind of like good for a Christmas film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of felt like it was wanting to be a good Christmas film and not wanting to be a Hallmark Christmas film, and it was somewhere in between, like really, really cheap actors, cheap jokes, where it's okay to kind of laugh at films like that because don't take it seriously. But this was like Amazon, and it had Asa Butterfield in it, who's like a huge star for our generation. And I couldn't help but feel like he could have done a better job, and he actually probably didn't bring the acting goods to this, and I actually found his acting really weak. Did you guys like any of the acting or have anything you'd like to say about the acting?
I feel like he was okay. I feel like he did what he could with a bad film, if you know what I mean. The other actors, the guy who plays Haley's dad, I know he's been around quite a lot of other different. I think he's been in Line of Duty.
Daniel Mays.
Daniel Mays, yeah, he's very good. His northern accent was not too good. Yeah, the whole northern aspect of it is a bit questionable, and the way they portrayed those characters. But overall, I thought the acting was just okay. It was kind of like a fast food film, you know what I mean? Like you've not come for good acting. It's just a simple story, you know what I mean? It wasn't anything special.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I think sometimes with Amazon and Netflix and on demand, and you can search things on your TV, we're kind of a bit spoilt for films. So you can always choose like the most amazing film ever from any decade, any country. So for this, it wasn't like a terrible film, but if you were probably much better on Netflix, its competitor, and on Amazon itself. So I think if you went into this film with really low expectations, you'd probably be happy with the film. But if you actually went into the film with high expectations, it would really disappoint you. And what did you think about any of the social commentary in the film, like with race, for example?
I feel like it's not really touched upon really. I feel like it's just kind of accepted really.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that there was going to be more comments on it as the film went on about how Daniel Mays' character and Haley's mum sort of got together, but there wasn't really sort of anything to do with that. I kind of again when Haley turned up at the like mansion or house, and James's dad sort of assumed she like the cleaner or assistant. I thought they were sort of hinting that he assumes that she is because she's black or because but again they kind of played that off quite well, how they did do it. But other than that, there wasn't really any hints towards it or any like they didn't really go into it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, they had like a mixed race family like centre of the film, and then they also had that scene, and that scene was probably the closest they got to like making it a bit preachy, and it was kind of interesting because I hated that plot because I found it so predictable. I was like, oh, they're all going to think she's a maid, and then she was a maid. And, you know, it's like, oh, this is a racist assumption, as well as a kind of classist assumption with the other white girl who, you know, showed up for the job as maid. So it was all a bit awkward. It was awkward, but I guess that's kind of British, kind of, right, you could argue British, wherever there is British racism, it could perhaps be awkward in its nature. And that was kind of like, she didn't want to offend him, he didn't want to offend her. Yeah. So there's kind of some humour there, but I kind of did feel, do you think kind of that type of plot would have been there like a few years ago, kind of pre-Black Lives Matter, pre-Meghan Markle and Harry?
I feel like it wouldn't have been centred as much. Like I feel like the only time they could have potentially like gone along with that storyline more is when the two families met eventually on Christmas Day. But I think they're just trying to like normalise it, if anything, more than anything else, and not make it like there has to be like a divide or like someone frowning upon someone else. Like I think they're just trying to like make it a given that there's people of different races, but it doesn't really matter.
I think how I read that scene was she was wrong in her racist in her assumption that he was racist for Father Humphrey, and that is kind of maybe a subtle lesson to viewers at home who might put their hand up really quickly, you know, to decry racism or any of it ism, because I think that would be quite a big criticism of Generation Z, is that they would be always the first ones to shout racism at anything. So I think it was in an interesting kind of maybe like an older writer or an older perspective there, because I feel like if it was written by a Gen Z voice, I think it would have been very earnest, those concerns, like on its sleeve, and how dare you.
I thought overall the writing was quite lazy, so I thought like they were just not smart enough to sort of go in that direction. It was just, the writing was just, it was okay, wasn't it? It was just not very, it was, I mean, I could have written a bit better film, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it was very, like, what was the, it was, yeah, simple, I guess.
Did you find any of it funny?
Yeah, I liked, some of it was quite forced humour, especially with the Northern family, the Northern aspect of it. As someone who grew up in like a Northern household, I guess I appreciate the jokes and the kind of humour of it. But again, it felt quite forced and quite stereotypical the way they portrayed it. But there were certain parts I found quite funny. And as the second half of the film went on, and you sort of saw the Haley's family interact with each other and with James, I found that they had quite funny moments, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I was with the writing and humour. Do you know Sex Education with Asa Butterfield in it? I thought that it would have been more like that sense of humour, like actually quite funny, quite edgy. But really, this film was for all the family. I don't think there was a few kind of jokes about, you know, like at the beginning, James befriending the children as an older man, as a university student, and all that, which I think as innuendo goes is fine for like children to watch, you know, and it's stranger danger as well. So it wasn't like any adult material there, but yeah, I just felt it could have been a bit less, a bit more teenage. I don't know, a bit more. Both of them are uni students, but it's kind of everyone is middle aged in that film.
I guess so, but I guess like the audience Amazon wanted was just young kids, I guess, maybe pre-teens or maybe just like 13 to 16-year-olds with like who can watch this with their family, because I don't know about you, but I wouldn't watch sex education with my family. Like there's certain parts about that I wouldn't want to watch with my mum or dad. But yeah, this is like a family film, so I don't think you could expect sort of that kind of edgy humour, I guess.
It felt like it had like a sort of checklist on what we have to have this and we have to have that, and they're kind of like making it like trying to get it into an all-rounder like family Christmas film that could be put on with like any demographic, really.
Did you like the music that Amazon chose?
What?
Did you like the music that Amazon chose? Did you think anything of it?
I liked it.
Yeah, it's okay.
There are a few like cheesy covers. I think Macy Peters is like singing. I don't know the name of the song, but I know she sung in it. And I feel like cheap covers like here and there. They were okay. It was just simple Christmas music.
Yeah. What did you think?
No, I actually really did like the music, and I think it was just very simple, very stereotypical. It just kind of was meant to be a film you watch with your family and maybe don't go straight back to it. It doesn't become an instant classic, but I think it kind of had all the components of just like a easy watch, and it did kind of get me a bit at the end. Got a bit emotional, but I think overall it was just quite a nice simple concept.
What do you guys have to say about the North-South divide in this film?
For the first half of it, I was like getting quite wound up by it. Again, it just felt like if an AI created Northern people, this is how it was. Like this is how it would be. Just why did the family have to be poor? Why did the family have to be like? Why did they have to come across as like not smart? Why did the dad have to be like very? I don't know, just very like lazy. Not lazy, just very dumb, I guess. And I got a bit wound up by it, and yeah. But as the film went along and you saw more to their characters, I guess they kind of dropped. They didn't drop it, but they kind of stopped pushing that stereotype, which I was kind of happy about. But yeah, the first half was a struggle, and it's just like it was a bit annoying.
Yeah, I guess I didn't like Haley's older sister who was a bit of a tart, and she just like went around. I didn't like that. I didn't really like the grandmother, you know, and she was punished in the end of the film, you know, like they left her behind, and then she was there at the end, so they weren't completely heartless in this Christmas film. But that was interesting. Yeah, I agree with you about the kind of the poverty aspect of it, and just kind of, I just hated Hayley's character throughout the whole film. I just found her, everything she said was annoying, and I think she was just written like she was a 12-year-old, not a 19, 20-year-old woman. Do you think that's...
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like her acting personally. I thought it seemed quite forced throughout. I think it it got better as it went on. Like, I was quite moved by the scene when she was like sat in the phone booth by herself and she was quite upset. I thought that was like quite a genuine moment, but until that point I was like, I can't like relate or feel sorry for this character. She just seemed very overacted, I guess. It seemed very forced.
I didn't know what character she was trying to be, I guess, other than like this upset teenage or early 20-year-old. There was no sort of personality there, I guess. You sort of find out she does, like, she likes magic, and it's kind of not really mentioned again in like these like few clips, right? Like, and it's the way they introduced the magic part of it and the fiance part of it was like, oh, these are important elements, but again, it's not really like, it doesn't feel like it's part of her personality, I guess. And it felt very just, all right, I guess this is happening now. It felt very just like, it wasn't. It felt weird, I guess.
Yeah, I actually didn't like that plot twist with the fiance.
I didn't feel like they developed it enough for it to be there. Like, they didn't really see like her mum's actual reaction with her. She just kind of like hugged it out to fit like the happy Christmas vibes. But I don't think they actually covered like, oh, like she lied to you for this many months. Like, she didn't tell you that, you know, he's not like technically part of the family anymore and all this. Like, they were kind of just like cut out of it. And then, I don't know, it just didn't really fit. Because like the big revelation when she does magic, oh yeah, I've also got a secret fiance, but they just didn't cover it. So
yeah, no, I completely agree with both of you. I think it's just they just gave her a backstory instead of a personality, and they kind of came right at the end, so didn't really care about it that much. And whereas I think the better integrated story was Hubert Humphrey and his deceased mother, you know, that kind of actually felt more organic. But the other thing, it was like they needed some interesting twist, so we're like, what should we do, you know? And they went around the writer's room like that. But I think it's yeah, what were you gonna say?
No, I really enjoyed I think, like you say, the dad turning from this very cold man who wasn't really there for his son. He didn't know anything about his son's life. Then by the end, he had like this transformation. And I think probably Hayley's role in that, in like making him realise the importance of his relationship with his son, that was probably the best thing she did like throughout the whole film. Like giving him the spirit of Christmas or whatever. Like, she brought a good energy to like the house, I guess. But I don't think her own story in itself really came across as well as what she did for like the old man.
Yeah, I think she's not a bad person, but it's almost like she's stuck in a Christmas film if this was real life, because she just goes around lying to people, like keeping secrets. She's very mature in that, and then also decorating the whole place, the whole gaff, and it's like, no. I was actually very mad with her for that, because I know that was literally integral to the film's kind of like plot going along, but to me that was bang out of order.
It was like the second morning with like this family, or like, and like this new house, and like he's like kind of put her up for the night, and like she's just gone to the like private area and private room, and just like clearly this room and like these decorations meant something to this family. And she's just like, alright.
She's already like lied to them completely. And she's like, oh yeah, I just decorated.
There was like so no care.
What is interesting about that is, you know, compared to the Brooke Shields film Falling for Christmas, that was kind of had a similar plot, like someone hates Christmas, super rich, an aristocrat, but that was a romantic story. That obviously with Hayley and her boyfriend's dad, it wasn't a romantic story, but I quite like that because it's like, but at the same time it's so unrealistic. But I think my point was just, she just acted like it was a natural film her entire life, and it just grated on everyone else, and it really wasn't, and she should learn not to speak sometimes. Because it was just like,
It was like the only reason. It was like the motivation for everything is like Christmas. I guess it's like, well, that's.
I get what you mean about northern stereotypes, because I think it's quite a common refrain to be like, oh, this character's I'm just gobby. I'm not stupid. I'm smart. I'm just gobby. But it's why do we always have to see like a gobby northern character like her who is just.
And like the way the kids were called Ant and Dec as well. I was like, all right, were they like the first northern people you thought of?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I know that was
it's cringy.
Yeah, no, I definitely think Hayley was probably the worst bit of the whole film.
Yeah.
And I got all the northern stereotypes and we're like, okay, make a character.
Yeah.